Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Prescott, Arizona greeting to the author of My Dad's Funnier Than Your Dad, Growing Up with Tim Conway in the Funniest House in America, Miss Kelly Conway.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. You guys left your homes for this? Nothing else to do? Thank you for coming. I've not done one of these with so many people, but I have to say already I'm more comfortable than the one-on-one interviews that we were doing with the news stations and with my brother's radio show. It's big pressure, but everyone is so nice here. Everyone I've met, everybody that's Don and his wife put this all together, and I'm happy to be here. You guys live in a beautiful town. I wanted to start. I'm not a writer. I have a lot of stories, and I can tell stories. So when my dad passed away, his publicist, his name is Roger Neal, he asked me if I wanted to write a book. And I said, no. I said, I barely graduated high school. I'm hooked on phonics, not at all. Definitely more interested in cheerleading and beach. I said, no. I said, I have a lot of stories, but and besides, who cares about the stories? And he said, I think people care because they loved your dad. So I kind of put something together. He ended up finding an agent in New York, and we did a treatment, and it went to a publishing company, a bunch of them, and then they sort out who's going to do it and get it. And so then there was a book deal, which is so foreign to me. I mean, I'm a wardrobe costume designer. So I'm in the business, but not anywhere near the literary side of it. And Caroline St. Clair, who wrote it with me, I just found out that Toni Tennille lives in town. And Toni, that's her aunt. So Caroline St. Clair, who I talked to every 5 days a week during COVID, writing the book, wrote Toni Tennille's book, and that's her aunt. So we're going to try to talk to her later and say hi, because I loved her book, and I loved Captain and Tennille. So I met Caroline. She lives in Orlando, Florida. Are you drinking? And he's a cop. Can I have a step?
Microphone little.
Yeah. Oh, turn it up?
Uh-huh.
Oh, how about now? How about now?
Yeah.
Is that any better? Okay. I'm gonna start over. So Caroline, I was introduced to Caroline because, like I said, I can tell a few stories. I'm not an editor. I do not want to be anywhere near a computer for that many hours. So Caroline was partnered with me, and she was amazing. She's brilliant. You should buy her book or read her book about her aunt, Toni Tennille. It's a fantastic story. And I had never met her. She lives in Orlando. And this was in February. This all came together of 2020. So that was right at the beginning of the COVID, the worldwide lockdown. So I had plans to go to Florida and not necessarily write the whole thing there, but just go for a week and visit with her and see what we want to do. So I never got to fly because no one was flying. And so we wrote it over the phone for it took about a year. And I thought, we started in kind of end of February. I thought it would be done. I had no idea. I thought we could finish it by May because that was when the anniversary of my dad passing away. So maybe we could release it on that. And they were like, no, it'll be a year from May and then plus 6 months. So it didn't happen as fast as we thought, but as fast as I thought. They knew it was going to take that long. So we wrote on the phone and FaceTime and Zoom calls, and probably met about 4 days a week. Between making banana bread during COVID and watching everything on Netflix, I was writing this book. And we wrote about a chapter every couple weeks. And it was really, really therapeutic because the last couple of years, my dad, I don't want to bring this down because you want me to do that, but the last couple of years weren't that fun. I had stepmom problems. She didn't want me to see my dad in the end. We still don't know why. You'll read about that if you read the book. But the last couple of years had been crazy with trying to get to visit him and to help him be more comfortable and just to allow him to suffer less. And that's all I wanted to do. And that was hard. So it was therapeutic in the way that I did all these stories. I have 5 younger brothers, and we're all so close in age. There's only 8 years between us. So my mom was pregnant for like a lot of years, like one after, no Irish twins, but pretty close, within a couple weeks. We're all so close in age that it wasn't like one kid was in college and the other one was in grade school. So we had all the same stories and experiences in a pack together. So we talk about stuff all the time. And all of us remember kind of a different part of the story, or somebody said or did something differently. But for the most part, they're all true, whether they like it or not. And remembering these stories and what my dad taught us and how he taught us, he and my mom. My mom was definitely more the disciplinarian. She came from 7 kids and she had a loud volume on her. Like she had to. 6 idiots bothering her all day, crawling up her leg. But these lessons and life things that my dad taught us, I never realized until I started writing this. And you think, oh, that was fun when when we had a swim meet. And everything to him was a competition or a game, or it wasn't just like, let's go swimming and bring your towel. It was, okay, call all your friends. We're going to have a swim meet in the backyard. He would put up lanes with garden hoses. He made a trophy with like an old swim fin covered in foil nailed to a piece of wood. He had refreshments for the athletes and a barbecue, and he had a full-blown swim meet at home. So these things, I thought because I was the oldest, I was going to beat my brothers. We were on the same team and all the neighborhood kids. And the first swim meet that he had, I lost. My brother Tim outswam me, and I was really, really mad. And I went and cried in the corner and, soaking wet and crying. And my dad came over and said, "What's the problem? We're having a party." And I'm like, "Well, I'm your oldest and I'm your only girl, and I think I should have won." He goes, "It doesn't work that way. Tim swam faster than you, so next time, I'll help you train, I'll help you practice, but next time you have to swim faster. That's all it is." And I went, "That's so unfair. I want that trophy." So these, we had another swim meet a couple weeks later, and I did beat my brother because I did practice and I did train, and I really wanted it. So these ways of not hovering and, everybody gets a trophy. It's like, no, not everybody gets a trophy. The faster one gets the trophy. And I think that's changed a lot in the world, but I can't control everybody. I would like to try. But he just made everything fun and funny, and even like a trip to the grocery store was, he would pile us all in the station wagon just to give my mom a break for a half hour from almost killing us. He would take us to the grocery store and he would take out $5 in the car, and he goes, "Okay, whoever catches the most groceries that I throw over the aisle wins $5. And I'm like, "Cool." So we go in and we each get a cart, and we position ourselves in one aisle, and my dad's over in the other aisle, and he starts throwing things over. It wasn't like jars of pickles, so it didn't break, but like toilet paper, napkins, like a bag of pasta or whatever it is, and we had to scramble around and catch whatever he was throwing. And I think they didn't kick us out because it was pretty funny to watch, and nobody was getting hurt. So it was just always entertaining and fun and laughing and just the best childhood. And I realize that. I understand it. And my brothers too. My dad has laid this path of kindness. I mean, I think all of you might understand that he is the same. Well, tell me if that's true. Do you think he's the same as he was on TV? I mean, I feel like it carries over to he's the same as he is at home, as he is on TV, as he was on the road in Vegas. He's just the same exact person. It didn't become this this evil, hanger thrower, whipper, whatever that was. He was just kind and fun and had different ways of doing things. I think that's why he and my mom ultimately probably got divorced, is because my dad thought we should go to the racetrack instead of school. So that didn't go over well. He would literally pick us up at all our various schools, and in the middle of the day on a Tuesday when Santa Anita Racetrack was open, and take us out of school and take us to the racetrack. And he would give us each, he would bet for us, but he'd give us each a certain amount. He said, you can, here's $10. You can bet it, you can hold on to it, you can buy a hot dog with it, you can do whatever you want with it, but whoever has the most money at the end of the day gets another $1 or whatever. With inflation, I'm trying to bring it down to what it was. It was probably $1 to start with. It wasn't 20. So he would, and we would bet on horses and learn how to handicap and learn how to figure out how much we won. And we'd get home, and we'd also collect all the tote tickets from the floors, thinking that some drunk dummy was, threw a winning ticket over his shoulder, not knowing what he had. So we would collect all the tickets in garbage bags. We brought garbage bags with us. And we'd be on the ground scooping all these tickets up, and we'd take them home. And we'd get home and we would check the program against the tickets. And we'd have this whole system. Like, one would circle something, I would check it, Corey would mark it, and we'd have a winner. We'd put the winning tickets. Like, we had a whole system going down. My mom walked in one day and she goes, "What are you guys doing?" We go, "Oh, we're checking racetrack tickets." She goes, "Yeah, I can see that. Where'd you get the tickets?" We looked at my dad and went, "He did it." So you go, "Okay," my mom's name is Marianne, "settle down. They're learning math at the racetrack." You go, "Corey," my second youngest brother, if you bet $3 to win on a horse that goes off at 2-1, how much do you win? And Corey would go, yeah, good. $5.20. You go, "See, it's word problems. They're fine. Leave them alone." And then we started working for my dad. My dad's like having us check his tickets and handicapping. So it was a lot of fun. And my mom didn't like some of it. My mom was very, very strict. She came from a family of 7, and she was the eldest also. And she was really hard on us with grades. And, my dad was more like, "They're fine. If they get C's and they have half a brain, they'll be fine." But my mom was like, "You need to get A's." I came home with a C once, and I thought I was going to be in my room for a month because I got a C. So my mom's yelling at me about the C that I got in, I think it was economics, obviously. And my dad came in and goes, "What is going on?" She's like, "This little dummy got a C in economics, and she's never gonna make it anywhere in life. She's never gonna." He goes, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." He goes, "Kelly, can you name the 7 dwarfs?" I go, "Yeah, of course I can." And I named all 7 dwarfs. I don't know if I can do it now. Sleepy, happy, grumpy, sneezy, dopey, bashful duck. I haven't looked at that in a while. So she went, okay, what is that? How is that going to get her a job unless it's at Disneyland? And he said, well, I think he gave me a racetrack thing to, what she can bet properly at a racetrack. How do you bet? He goes, you tell him the race, you tell him the horse, and when place or show. And he goes, see, leave her alone. She's fine. She has common sense. So it settled my mom down for a bit, but she was pretty loud. She was awesome. She was an awesome woman. We had our years in there where teenagers don't get along with their moms because we're so much smarter and better. I was so rude. I can't believe it. But then you come around to loving your parents again. It takes a while because you think of these parents as being just there to help you, and they're superheroes, and they are just there here on this earth for you. And once I figured out that they weren't, it was pretty great. That they needed their friends too, and companions, and grown-up dinners by themselves. So anyway, like Dawn said, I'm probably not going to read unless anybody really wants me to. I'm not a great reader out loud, although I did do an audiobook. It took 5 days, 7-hour days, and that's. They budgeted 5 days, so I wasn't over, but it was painful. The engineer was so patient because you start. I've read it so many times. You start reading it, and then the words don't make sense. It's like foggy. The words don't even make sense anymore. But it was hard reading it. But I don't know if I'm going to read unless anybody wants to hear anything. How many people thought they were coming to see Kellyanne Conway of the Trump administration? She's downstairs in the bigger room. I have gotten such flack from that. The publisher called halfway through the writing of it, and he said, hey, do you have a middle name that we could use? Because he was just Kelly Conway to him. He said, because this is going to be crazy. People are going to associate you with Kellyanne Conway, Trump. And I'm like, okay, that's finer than me. And he said, well, let's use your middle name. And he goes, what is it? It's Ann. He goes, oh, God. I go, I'm not changing my name. He goes, isn't there anything you can put in there? I go, no, it's my name. I do have actually Kellyanne's my first name and Dalton's my middle name, but I've never gone by that. And so, I don't know, people just have to hate me for it. I loved it. I thought she's cool. Has anyone read the book? You did? Thanks for reading it.
I loved it. I read it in one day.
It's not a hard read. I told you, I'm not hooked on phonics. Thanks for reading it. Oh, there's the pictures. Oh my gosh.
Love the pictures.
That was a hard one. I have thousands and thousands of pictures. We're so lucky that my dad took a lot of pictures. His friend Ernie Anderson, who's his closest friend, was a great photographer, and they just took pictures all the time, and really, not just snapshots. They were good pictures. So I had a hard time narrowing it down. There's over 100, I think. There's over 100 pictures inside. So it's fun to look at. Yeah.
Did your father ever rehearse at home?
Kind of. He didn't. He never went to acting class. Did I just turn something off? No. He never. He didn't go to acting class. He didn't want to be in television or movies or anything. Not that he didn't want to, but he never thought of it as being a career. So he was just funny, and he, like I said, he was dyslexic actually, and so he had a hard time reading lines, but he could memorize like you wouldn't believe. Like he could look at a page and almost memorize it. because he was so afraid of having to read something in front of somebody or to do work. So he would memorize things, and he memorized to death. But that was the way he did it. But he would make things at home, props and stuff that he would surprise everybody with, like all the secret weapons for he and for Harvey to make him wet his pants. Which I think he did. My dad said he did in the dentist sketch. And I always look, I'm like, I don't want to look, but did he wet his pants?
If he had not planned on going into acting, so to speak,
Yeah.
what was his original career plan or thought?
He was working at the Chagrin Valley hardware store in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, and I think he wanted to own the hardware store, honestly. And because, sorry, my heart's there. Because of that, I like hardware stores more than I like Bloomingdale's. And I'm a wardrobe stylist, so that's a lot.
Are you going to speak a little bit about how he didn't fall into acting or move into acting?
Yeah, he was doing radio. And he was doing radio because it was a job, not because he needed to work. And he met Ernie Anderson, who was a voiceover announcer, the biggest, in the 70s and 80s and 90s, I think, too. He did the wraparounds for all the ABC shows. So all, Next on the Love Boat and Coming Up, and that's his voice. And he met him in Cleveland. They're both from Cleveland, outside of Cleveland. And was doing a radio show, and Rosemarie, actress from the Dick Van Dyke Show, who's my godmother. I think she's my godmother because that's the only person my dad knew in LA when I was born. She saw them and told Steve Allen about them, that she thought they were funny and he should have them come out to LA to do the Steve Allen show. And so they did. They brought both my dad and Ernie Anderson out, and my mom. My mom and dad were just married, and Ernie and his wife Edwina. My dad and mom drove out in a little Volkswagen from Cleveland. They ended up in Van Nuys, California. The apartment building is still there, believe it or not. And I was born there, and my dad did the Steve Allen show a few times, and then he got auditioned for the McHale's Navy, and that was the first job he had. I know, crazy, right? It just kind of, it seemed like it was meant to be and fell into place, although from what he's always said, it wasn't a plan. And my grandmother in Chagrin Falls, Ohio, this is years and years ago, but my dad was it was during, it was after the Carol Burnett show, but still very well established. We drove by the hardware store, and my grandmother thought that Hollywood was a bunch of freaks and, losers. So we drove by the hardware store, and she went, Tim, she goes, if you would have stayed in Chagrin, you could have owned their hardware store by now. And he goes, Mom, I have a job, and it's a pretty good job. But he would have been fine with the hardware store, and the hardware store is still there. Yeah, and Mr. Schatz, I think it was Schatz, who owned it. People would bring if they had a kid that wasn't doing so well in school or picked fights or misbehaved, they would bring them to work at the hardware store, and the owner, Mr. Schatz, would whip these kids into line. And by, having them show up on time and do things, and to teach them what their parents weren't getting through, or parents were trying to get through to them, but you listen to others way more than your parents. So he was known for kind of turning out nicer kids because they all ended up respecting him, and from working at the hardware store. So I love hardware stores. I love how they smell and the old wood. Do you have a question?
Pardon me, at what point did you realize that you were going to have to share Tim with the rest of the world? And
I do.
You
No.
always know that? Did go?
Yeah, no. I don't think, because we grew up, both my parents are my mom's from Dearborn, Michigan, my dad Cleveland. They raised us like we were in the Midwest, like nothing crazy, nothing fancy, nothing, which nobody did anyway. It was just not a way to raise a kid. I think it's different now. I think the kids just kind of get, here's your Maserati when you turn 16. In LA anyway, in LA. But we weren't, it was nothing special. So, and there wasn't the social media aspect of it either, you know? So when we went to school and people, and, you know, some parents would say, oh, I saw your dad on TV the other night. He was really funny. You go, oh, thanks, Mrs. Smith. I'll see you later. And then you're done with your day. And now it kind of, it never ends. I feel sorry for these kids because you know, if you had a problem in school or something didn't go well, you could leave it aside and have a peaceful dinner and a night and then go back at it the next morning. But the social media part, I think, too, is what's changing everything into making people seem more special than they are. We were just 6 kids that rode dirt bikes around and had a swim meet once in a while and you know, went to the hardware store for paint. It was just normal. And I still didn't, you know, because people weren't rude when they came up to my dad. Everyone, like this whole room, this whole everything, so nice. People were so nice when they approached my dad, if they had a story for him or they wanted him to sign something or just to say hi and that they loved him. And so that was also nice too. So it wasn't like now. It wasn't now. It's harder now, you know. Do you have a question?
Yeah, what was it like growing up and having your father being as infamous as he was, and how it was with your peers growing up? And what was it like for you to meet maybe Carol Burnett and
Yeah.
Norman and
What's your name?
Margot?
Margot asked, what's it like growing up with my dad, and if I got to meet Carol Burnett and everybody. And yeah, it was a blast. It was on Thursdays. They taped the show on Fridays at CBS in LA, and we were always told that you can't come on Fridays because the tapings are for insurance. They said for insurance reasons you can't come on Fridays because you have to be 18 or something. And we're like, okay, you know, we were dumb. We believed them. But when I was writing this, I realized that I think my parents made that up because they didn't want us there on Fridays because they wanted to be with their friends. Because Friday was an important day. It was their tape. They did a dress rehearsal and a tape and air. They took the best out of 2 shows to edit and put on in a couple weeks on Saturday night. So we got to go on Thursdays. On Thursday afternoon, we would. My mom would pile us in the car. My dad would already be at work rehearsing, and she would pile us in the car to drive the big 45-minute drive from the Valley to CBS. And we just kind of got to do whatever we wanted, not in a rude, bold way, but you know, just take off in these hallways of flats and sets and set dressing and costumes and people that were on the show. The Carol Burnett show was on one part of the hallway. Across the hall was the Sonny and Cher show. Next door to them was Three's Company. And so I'd go, Mom, I'm going to the bathroom, bye. And I would take off and I would go to Sonny and Cher. I idolized Cher. I wanted to be her, but I just wanted to become her. And I would sit, they had kind of temporary seating bleachers because Days of Our Lives, I think, was in there some of the week. So they rolled in bleachers and they would have these kind of temporary bleachers, and I would just sit and watch them through the bleachers and go, I love you, I want to be you. And then they would see me and then they go, come on up, like come and hang out with us. And John Ritter on Three's Company, like I got to know him. He was so nice. Oh my gosh, he was so nice. He loved my dad, and you know, he'd say, hey, Kelly, do you want to get your hair and makeup done? And I go, sure. And so he'd put me in his chair after he was done, and they would do my hair and makeup. And then I'd go to the wardrobe room where Bob Mackie was designing all the costumes, and Sonny and Cher, and Cher's those headdresses and all the Vegas type, you know, costumes and glamour beaded dresses and all the variety stuff from the Carol Burnett show. I think he did, I don't know, over 60 costumes per show, because if there's a big dance number, you know, there's 30 or 40 dancers, and then all the characters for the show. So that was a big deal, and I kind of hung out in that room a lot more than the other rooms, and so that was kind of all I knew. So I became a costume designer. That's all I had. I can't read. Do you have a question? Pardon?
You can write.
I can write. Not down, but I can write in my head.
If you have a question, I'm gonna come to the mic so everyone can hear it.
When they did the shows on Carol Burnett, and I remember the one when he was a dentist.
Yes.
And I can't believe that anybody could write that because it was so he just made it up, didn't he?
He did. Well, I was saying to your question, like, did he ever rehearse at home? He didn't really rehearse, but he made props at home. So that needle that he kept putting into Harvey, I think it was there, but I think he came home and made the needle longer. He got a pair of scissors. At one point he hangs scissors off his finger, and gets himself in the head. So in that way, he would do stuff, make things in the garage, and I would help him make the props for. He did this one sketch called, I think it was the Interrogation with the little puppet. Harvey, they were a German army with the Hitler puppet. It's probably they can't do that now because they would get canceled into a grave. But it was the little Hitler puppet, and we made it at home. So. Yes.
Hi. Okay, hi. I'm just interested in the backstory of how your father ended up on the Carol Burnett show.
He met Joe Hamilton, Carol Burnett's husband, at the time, through Steve Allen, the Steve Allen show when he came out with Harvey from Cleveland. It was all kind of a tight-knit little circle at CBS, and she had seen him on McHale's Navy. He did McHale's Navy for 4 years only. It seems longer, doesn't it? Like, it seems like it's 10, but it was 4 years. And I think they saw him on that, and he started just being a guest on the Carol Burnett show. He wasn't a regular until the last, I think it was 11 seasons. I think maybe season 7. He didn't become a regular until that season. But it seemed like he was a regular because I think she had him on every other week. So he learned how to sing and dance on it too. Didn't everyone do it?
Hi, Kelly. Do you have a favorite character of your father's? And did he ever fall into character at home?
Yeah, yes, he did. And I would have to tell him I would put my hand over his mouth. I'm like, if I was having a problem or something at school or boy trouble, he would make a joke out of it, and I'd go, Dad! And I would cover his mouth and go, just listen for 5 minutes. Just listen to me. And I'm crying about something. And he'd go, okay. And then say something funny. But he made everything better. And he made, a boy broke up with me in high school, and I was bawling my eyes out, going, I was such a good girlfriend. I don't know why he broke up with me. There was nothing wrong. I did everything right. My dad goes, he changed his mind. I go, what? That's so mean. I go, no, it happens every hour of every day. He changed his mind, and it didn't have anything to do with you personally. But you gotta press on, you gotta move on. I'm like, oh my God. But it's true, you can't, and he did teach us, you can't make somebody like you, wanna hang out with you, call you, hire you. You can maybe to a point, but it's not gonna be for very long. That was the one thing that I think I slid out of in more relationships, in my adult life, is I can be sad, but I can't make him like me or want to, move to LA or whatever. You can't.
Did he do any sketches at home, specifically like The Old Man, which I loved him in? I think of Tim Conway, and I think of that old man that he portrayed was one of the funniest characters.
I do too. That wig that he had was called, they named it Skippy. They named the wigs, and I don't know why. I still don't know the story about that, and I don't know if I have really any people to ask anymore. But so he had the wig. It was his own. They had one at CBS, and the hair and makeup people had one for at home because he wanted one at home because it was Sunday and he was bored. So yeah, he put the wig on and he'd walk around slowly, and It was like we'd be watching TV and see my dad like take 8 minutes to. We're like, Dad, we're watching the Rams. Can you move faster? Oh my God, he's so rude.
Did he have an all-time favorite skit?
I think the dentist probably. I mean, it's so obvious and so like I still watch it and laugh. Like, it's so good.
I laughed just thinking of the question. That's my favorite.
He doesn't have to do much. He just has to look at you a weird way. I think the dentist probably. I have a couple dentist friends, and they have conventions, once a year or something, wherever the city is that they meet in, and they show that at the dentist conventions. And they said it's the best part of their convention because it's talking about new drills and safety measures for your office, and then they show that. So, another question.
What I enjoyed the most was his relationship with Harvey Gorman. They would always laugh. Did he have a very good relationship with him?
They were best friends.
Okay.
And I think that showed in what they did. They're much different people in real life, but they were best pals. And they like to torture each other with pranks and things. My dad, Harvey was, and I'm not saying this, he's not here to defend himself, but if he were sitting here, I think I have to know. I'm like, you are the most neurotic Jew we've ever met in our lives. He goes, well, it's fine. He goes, there's nothing wrong. I go, no, there's nothing wrong with it. But Harvey thought that Osama bin Laden was after him. So anything he saw on the news, he would go, oh God, he's coming to Brentwood. And we're like, I don't think Osama bin Laden is coming after you. Or even your street, but it's definitely not you. So my dad, the guys that paint in California anyway, that paint numbers on the sidewalks, so your address is on the curb, right? And there's a guy that goes around, they think it's like $10, and they used to. You give them $10 and they spray paint the thing on the side of the thing. So my dad saw the guy coming down the street and he goes, I have a favor. Here's $100. Can you go up to 5897 Stradella Drive and knock on the door and tell Harvey that you need to paint his address on the refrigerator? And the kid goes, okay. So he goes up and Harvey knocks on the door. Ultimately, he called the police on this kid. And I think the kid ran away because Harvey, sounded the alarm, pressed the panic button on the alarm, and the kid ran away. But torture each other.
Did your dad ever have any
Feedback?
any desire to do serious roles?
I don't think he can. No. I'm just gonna say no. He did. There's a couple. There's a movie called Dear God. Do you remember that? With Greg Kinnear? It was about the post office, and it was about kids writing letters to Santa, and they were going to stop it, I think, and the postal workers were up in arms about, you can't stop the kids writing, and we're not going to have I think that's what it's about. I loved that movie, but there were a couple serious moments in that that my dad had. It made me cry because it was so good, but he didn't, I don't think he wanted to. He didn't want to do anything serious, and he didn't want to sing and dance. But they made him sing and dance on the Carol Burnett show sometimes. But he wasn't bad. He just didn't want to. He just didn't. He did a rap song with Ice-T for a movie called The Long Shot. And Ice-T my dad wrote it, Ice-T put the music to it, and I went to the recording session, and Ice-T halfway through, and he goes, your dad is the worst rapper. I go, I know. You should have known that going into it. He's not a rapper. He's from Chagrin Falls, Ohio. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Did your father have any comedians that he looked up to or tried to emulate, add into his repertoire?
He loved Laurel and Hardy, and I think Laurel and Hardy was like, it's the kind of that, it's not necessarily the funny things that you're saying, but it's what you're doing. And the Three Stooges and the obvious like physical comedians. It takes somebody like Carol Burnett and her husband, Joe Hamilton, to let him do what he did, because so many shows and scripted, you know, even sitcoms are kind of like, you can't, you know, it's timed and there's 3 cameras and you have to do what's scripted for timing and so the other actors can get their cues, but they let him do what he wanted, and which I don't know if that even happens anymore. And to let him loose and to let him do what he wanted to was, I think, the magic about it, because that's when he was his best. So, yeah.
The young man skit reminded me of Are You Laughing, Artie Johnson.
Yeah. Well, that was on at the same time. That was 60s, early 70s, right? And same Carol Burnett Showtime, or same era. But yeah, he loved everybody on there. He loved Betty White. Oh my gosh, loved Betty White. They were good friends. And like modern day, he didn't understand some of the comedians today, because he always was of the school that you kept everything clean. And he did. He said he wanted to be able to watch whatever he did in a room with grandparents, parents, grandchildren, and not have to cover anybody's ears or walk out of the room going, don't listen to this. So he did keep it clean, which is hard to do, I think. Seinfeld does it. Jerry Seinfeld doesn't add anything crazy into his acts.
Your dad was the dinner speaker at a banquet I attended several years ago. The highlight of his presentation was he showed the video of the dentist office.
Oh, he did?
But he prefaced it by saying that he and Harvey Korman had a standing bet that any time one of them could make the other one laugh on camera,
that's true.
the one that laughed had to pay him $1,000 or $5,000 or something.
That's true.
And he said, this scene put my son through college. Is that true?
It's true. He owed him a lot of money. I think he paid it in quarters. Harvey was when I say he was neurotic, he's from the theater. It was so much different school than my dad. My dad was just, I'll either work at the hardware store or in California, I don't care. But Harvey was very, went to drama school, and he was in theater, and everything was very rehearsed and blocked, and so when they started working together, he knew Harvey was so vulnerable and couldn't stand not making him laugh. But my dad was also the smoother over, because they traveled on their road show for a while years ago, around 2000, maybe late 90s, 2005 or 6, through there. They traveled all over the country and did, Branson, Missouri, and casino shows, and all the Indian casinos and stuff. So my dad, or Harvey, would go into the green room and go, I didn't ask for avocados. I asked for guacamole. My dad's like, we're fine. Like, let's just smash it up and throw a tomato in it. You'll be fine. And Harvey would go like, oh, there's Diet Coke here. I asked for regular Coke. And where's the pot? My dad would go like, stop. Stop. He would like smooth everything out. And then Harvey would laugh at him because it's like, okay, I'm not being fair. It was never mean, but Harvey was just very high maintenance too. My dad was like, whatever, we'll sleep here or we'll sleep on the floor. It doesn't matter. So.
Actually, before I get to my question, I would like to say that the dental thing was really funny. Mrs. Wiggins.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, that's my favorite. That accent was kind of my grandmother's accent. She's Eastern European, Romanian. So my dad's half Romanian and half Irish. And so that accent was kind of her accent a little bit mixed in with, I don't know, something else. I don't even know what it became, but it was kind of came from her. So my grandma got in there.
My question is, which grocery store?
Gelson's.
I knew it.
How did you know?
I lived 4 blocks from Gelson's.
You what?
I lived 4 blocks from Gelson's.
In Encino?
All those
In Encino? What street did you live on? What? Wow. So you knew the Jacksons lived there. So the Jackson 5 lived on the street that we're talking about on Havenhurst. And there was always chaos outside of their house, rock stars. And so we'd see them. There would be hot dog vendors, T-shirt sellers outside the Jackson's house. And years later, I got to work with all of the Jackson 5, all of the boys except for Michael. They had a new single out, and I did a music video. I did their wardrobe for a music video. And I told Jermaine, at the last day, I pulled him aside. I go, I have to tell you something. So we lived down this, someone told him who my dad was, so he knew. I said, we send, when we're tired of our out-of-town guests, when they come to visit, they want to go out touring around the valley, we send them to your house to go. Michael Jackson lives right up from Gelson's down the street, and he goes, you're kidding me. He goes, we used to send our friends to your house because it looked fun. They said you guys had the best swing set.
In your last segment, you mentioned the fact of something about grandchildren and so on. Did he ever get a chance to inflict, shall I say, or what would I say, his sense of humor on them?
On his grandchildren?
On his grandchildren?
My nieces, yes. My niece Courtney, who's now 22, my youngest brother. There are only 2 grandkids, which is out of 6 kids is kind of. I don't have any kids. which is.
What's up?
I was skiing too much. I was ski racing, and it took all my time, and I just couldn't be bothered. Because when you have kids, you don't ski till noon. So I wanted to be out there at 7.
And they're both Tims, right?
Yeah. So my niece, my dad used to make, instead of going out to Toys R Us and buying, stupid gifts or toys that you play with for 10 minutes and then forget about, he used to build things out of cardboard. He would go to Gelson's and get cardboard boxes and build, he built Courtney a sundry store in a hotel with like a cash register, an ATM machine, sunglasses, toothbrushes, toothpaste, like you were in a hotel, but he made it out of cardboard. And he gave her fake Monopoly money, and she ran the sundry store in our house. So she kind of got it way early too. He didn't, after a while, so the cardboard, after a while when it sits around for a while, it starts to stink like a wet dog. So he'd have to toss it out, and then he'd make, the fabulous Forum. Like he'd make a replica of the Forum, and she would do concerts at the Forum. So, yeah. So they got early that nothing was really taken too seriously. Of course, the serious things, stitches and broken bones, but for the most part, it was just nothing was that. You can always come back. You don't have to be so. Don't worry about stuff. One of the events, like the swim meet, my dad wanted, this is mid-70s. We had a pool area outside with a really nice pool and a kind of a cabana with a bar that my dad built and a fireplace, pit, and everything. So it was a really fun social area. He took us all to the hardware store and to Builder's Emporium. Do you remember Builder's Emporium? Yeah. Okay. Is there a lot of people from LA? Really? How many people from LA? Or California? California. Wow. You are? But so their first apartment was on Sherman Way and Havenhurst near Haskell. Yeah.
Prescott's a lot of Southern California.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now I can talk. No. So he took us to Builder's Emporium, and he bought some cable. He bought a wood dowel handle, saying he wanted to build a zip line which there weren't even zip lines then, I don't think. But he wanted to. I don't think it was called a zip line. It was just a death trap, really. So he put the top of the line up on the roof of the cabana where the fireplace was, and he pulled it, he made it expand across the pool and then into what was a cinder block wall after the pool at the end. And the thing was, you had to climb up on the ladder to get there, but you had to let go. It was for us to let go in the pool and splash and then go back and do it again. So he's like, remember it, so I was first. We always went in order of eldest to youngest, so I was always first. So I go up first. Okay, he's shouting, let go. So I let go, and it was so fun in the pool. And I get up to go on another round. And by the time Tim, Patrick, Jamie, Corey, Sean, the little one, he was probably only 4 or 5 years old at the time. And hang on, and my dad says, do not forget to let go over the pool. Okay, Dad, I got it. So he goes across the pool. My dad's going, let go. And Sean didn't let go. He goes across the pool into the cinder block wall. He smashes against the wall and kind of settles down like he was definitely delirious, like birds tweeting above his head. And my mom comes out of the house. Her window was open. You couldn't really see the pool from the house, but she heard something, came downstairs in her bathrobe, and she goes, what the are you doing to my children? You're trying to kill them. So we didn't get a second run on the zip line. We had one good run on it. And Sean was nothing crazy happened, but he was delirious for a while. An ER visit, Encino Hospital.
So I just had a question. When you say you had 5 brothers, that sounds like possible pandemonium and kind of hectic. And then,
possible.
A dad's a comedian. How would you say, did he cause your brothers to maybe joke around more or play tricks on their only sister, or I just want to know some of the things maybe the boys did because their dad's a comedian? Yes. The answer is yes. But sometimes it wasn't that fun. It would be like, sometimes they would fight so hard. Like the 2 little ones, or actually we sometimes didn't even know who it was. There would be 2 of them scrapping in a dirt pile, and they were hitting and biting and spitting and socking each other so hard you couldn't tell who it was. I go, Dad, you need to stop them. He goes, I don't even know who it is. I can't even tell which 2 it is. And he goes, I can narrow it down, but I don't know where Sean is. So I go, they're bleeding. You need to stop. He goes, I'm get in the car. We'll go to the Encino emergency if anybody gets caught. But I don't know. I'm not getting in there. They would. One time, my dad. It was I don't remember the movie, but there was a really scary movie about somebody being in the same house and calling on the phone from the same house going, I'm in the house. Like some creepy, scary movie like that. And I was at home after my parents got divorced. My dad lived about 1.5 miles away. And I was home by myself. All the boys were at my dad's house. And I got a call going, I'm in the house. I can see you. You're gonna die. And so I freaked out, called my dad. I'm like, Dad, someone's in the house, and I don't know what to do. And he goes, stay there. So he was over in about 30 seconds in the car. He came up and swooped me up and put me in his car, and I was freaking out. He called the police. Police came, checked the house, nothing. We didn't know what it was. Nobody was in the house. So we get back to my dad's house, and my brothers are all there rolling on the ground, laughing. Sean was laughing so hard he was throwing up. And he goes, you did this? He said that he took, they're like, Corey did it. Corey's the one that made the call. He took Corey by the neck, and he held him up on the wall. He goes, Corey's feet were dangling. Like he couldn't run, like a cartoon, like he was trying to get away, but he couldn't run. He goes, you do that again to her, and you're dead. Grounded forever. But yeah, that was the biggest prank. And then they cheated in Monopoly. Because everyone did. stash $100 bills in their socks. But
What was your father's childhood like?
really simple. His town, Chagrin Falls, is a little small, just a storybook, beautiful town outside of Cleveland. And when I saw the center square here, it reminds me a little bit of Chagrin. They had a center gazebo that the town was centered around, and stores and businesses all around. So, and I thought that when Don drove me around last night, I'm like, this is like Chagrin. Really simple. His mom was a master seamstress, tailor, sewer. She made slipcovers and drapes and clothes for a well-to-do family in Hunt Valley, not far from Chagrin. And my grandfather, my dad's dad, was a horse groom. So they met. He groomed the horses there, and she did all the sewing for the house, and that's how they met. My grandma didn't speak English, and my grandfather just spoke English, and so they got along somehow. And they ended up in Chagrin, down the street from this Hunt Valley house, and my dad. And it was everything just normal. I mean, he had paper route. Played football in high school, dated a cheerleader, all the usual normal stuff. Probably goofed around a little, a lot.
Was your dad funny from the get-go, as you remember?
As I remember, yeah. Yes, my earliest memories are just always just fun and games. And like I said, it was a swim meet. It wasn't just to go swim in the pool. Yeah, not very serious.
Are there funny things that your dad used to say all the time when you were growing up that now you find yourself saying all the time?
Uh-huh.
That you're an adult?
Yep. When he got a haircut, I go, Dad, you got your haircut? And he goes, I got them all cut. Yeah. Every single time. Every time. And then when my dad had prostate cancer about 15 years ago. And it was fine because Charlene, my former stepmom, made him go to the doctor about every 20 minutes. So they caught it early, and so it was great, but he had to have a small procedure surgery for it. And he was at Cedars-Sinai, and all the nurses would, they'd be fluffing his pillow or straightening his bed or something, and they would talk to him like he was either 5 years old or he couldn't hear. They go, Mr. Conway, are you comfortable? And he'd go, I make a decent living. Every single time. I'd be like, Dad. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, oh, Mr. Conway, you're so funny. But yeah, he had the same, which we love. My brother and I say it all the time. My brother, Tim Jr., is the most amazing brother. I was telling Don that I wouldn't be here right now if it weren't for him, because yesterday I had a 7:30 flight to come here, and it was 2:30 in LA. And my brother called and he goes, hey, are you at the airport yet? I go, it's 2:30. It's like, it's hours away. I'm not going until, he goes, you're supposed to be at the airport 3 hours ahead of time. I go, I know, it's only 2:30. He goes, get in the car and get to the airport. Traffic's gonna be bad and you never know what's gonna happen. I'm like, so then I'm like, God, what does he know? So at around 3, I get to the airport, then I get there about 4, but that's still 3.5 hours early. And I get on the shuttle. Well, I was in the parking lot, and my brother, then he called an hour later, he goes, are you at the airport yet? I go, yeah, Dad. I go, I'm here. I really wasn't at the airport. I was at the parking lot where I parked my car. I go, yep, I'm here, just going through security. It's all good. Thanks, Tim. Bye. So I'm on the shuttle to get to the airport, and the shuttle driver says, hey, there's a bomb scare at Bradley Terminal. There's a van was left there unattended, and so they closed the whole airport town. I go, what is going on? So they closed the airport for about an hour and a half. There were no flights taking off or landing. They dropped us off. If you guys know LAX, there's Sepulveda is kind of the entrance to the airport. And then it's a long horseshoe And so I walked. I'm like, I gotta get off this. My brother thinks I'm already at the airport, gone through security. And I called him. I go, do you know what's going on at LAX? He goes, no. I go, my brother has a radio show on KFI in LA. And so they get the news feed, every 5 seconds. They know what's going on. He goes, no. I go, there's a bomb scare. The airport's closed. He goes, tell me you're in the terminal right now. I'm like, I didn't tell you the truth. I'm walking into the airport right now. He's like, oh my God. So he had me, his show started at 6. I didn't get to the terminal until 6 o'clock because of the walking and the traffic, and they weren't letting people on property. So it was close. It was a close call. Thank God he said to go early. I was gonna go at 5:30. Like, it's gonna be a small flight, small plane. What could go wrong? A bomb scare. So he called me. He goes, "Here, would you come on the radio?" And so I went on his show. His show starts at 6. She's like, "What's going down in LAX?" So it was weird. It was the LAX is bumper to bumper traffic ever since we can remember. From age 5, it's never an easy airport. It's the worst airport in the world. And my brother was saying, he goes, "You haven't learned from me in 56 years that you don't fly out of LAX." I'm like, "Well, Don made the reservations for me." He goes, "Burbank, you got to fly out of Burbank." So anyway, big bomb scare. My brother kind of took over where my dad left off. I called him and said, "Hey, can I put a towel bar in the shower, like on top of the tile? Can I put a drill through the tile?" He goes, "Oh God." He goes, "Just put it on the wall. Don't put it in the tile." I go, No. I want to live in a hotel. I want the shower bar in the shower like the hotels have, like the fancy hotels. I want to live in one." So he goes, "You're gonna screw it up." He goes, "Here's what you do. You need a hammer drill, you need this, you need a diamond, blah, 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 blah. And here is the plumber's or the handyman's phone number for when you pick it up, because you're gonna pick it up." So he then comes over with a hammer drill and with the right drill bit, and he helps me do it, and just like my dad would. He's awesome. He, call me when you get there, like my dad. So it's pretty great. My brother's a year younger than I am. He's pretty awesome. You guys can listen to him if you want on the iHeartRadio app, and it's KFI LA. Yeah.
Kelly, in your book, you talk about taking your brother to school in your Volkswagen.
Oh, yeah. I didn't want to, but my parents made me. When I got my driver's license, my first car was a VW convertible Bug, and it wasn't mine. It was my mom's car, and I think she got it so she wouldn't have to have kids in the car anymore. We had a station wagon. My dad had his car, and then she had the Bug. She's like, "I'm just going to play tennis. You can't fit in here. Bye." So that was my car to drive. And we would call, when my parents first got divorced, we would spend the night at my dad's a couple nights. And then if it was a school night, we didn't do we need 2 toothbrushes now? Like, we don't even have toothpaste. I don't even have socks. Like, we have to go home and change to go to school. So my dad would put us, all 6 of us, in, we named it the Bad Breath Mobile because none of us had a toothbrush for the first few times. So my dad's like, "Get all aboard the Bad Breath Mobile, back to mom's." So I had to take my brother, because we went to the same school, to school, and I didn't want to take him because it was so uncool to have to take your brother to school. I was a cheerleader. I was homecoming queen. I'm like, why do I have to take him? He's a loser. So this is my brother, Tim. And so I would I'm nicer now. I would purposely wait. We had to leave the house at 7:30. I would wait till 7:26 and be like, "Tim, I'm leaving. I'm in the car. You're late." He's like, "What? I can't even brush my teeth." Oh, so you'd get in the car and I'd go, "Oh my God, you're such a loser. You need an alarm clock. I'm not waking you up anymore." So I would make him, I go, "Your hair's all frowsy. I'm not being seen with you. It's all like fuzzy on one side. You even take a shower." So I would put his head down in the wheel well of the car and go, "You do not get out of this car until count to 30. Okay? I'm gonna be in school already. You get out of the car and lock it. Nobody's gonna see me with you. You need to get up earlier and at least put water on your hair. It looks stupid." So that was mean. but I did it. Now I love him. Now he's my best friend.
Yes, Kelly, did your dad have siblings? And if so, do they have any stories about him?
He's an only child. Yeah, isn't that crazy? My mom has 7 brothers and sisters, or she's one of 7. She has 6 brothers and sisters. And my dad's only child, which was really, now that, you know, like I said, in writing this, you don't realize like all these things and why they happened and the relationships that my grandparents, we were the only grandchildren to them. So we got all of the attention. It wasn't, on my mom's side, you know, there's cousins everywhere and they barely know our names. They're like, who do you belong to? I'm like, Marianne, your daughter. So there's like 40 cousins. But we got all the attention from him. And so, yeah, I know for him to be that like funny, and maybe it came from that. And you know, he always said his parents were really funny, and they were funny not as you would think, but just said funny things and did funny things that maybe he picked up on. But it was nice to be the only grandkids. And he worried a lot too. Like he couldn't understand why, like when they were divorced, we would go up to my mom's family. My mom's family had a cottage up in southwestern Ontario in Canada. And my dad would call and to check on the kids. And my dad would call and go, where are all the kids? What are they doing? And my mom would go, I don't know. 2 are sailing, 1's in the lake, 1's riding their bike around, and I don't know where the other 2 are. Like my dad would be like, what? He goes, oh my God, I'm sending the police. I'm calling the cops. Do you think they're dead? I was like, no, they're having childhood on their bikes. So he worried. He had a chalkboard at his house. At my mom's house. He painted on our names and a grid with Monday through Sunday on it. And we had to write on the chalkboard where we were, whose house we were at, the phone number, what the parents' names were, because there were so many. You know, we were scattered all over the neighborhood on our bikes. And he thought somebody was going to kidnap us. And not for money, like, because there wasn't very much. You know, these little blonde, towhead, cute little boy. I had brown hair. They had blonde hair. Kids running around. He thought we were going to be kidnapped. So he was really scared of someone coming to get us. When he first started McHale's Navy, I was born the first week he started, so that was 62. And he had, you know, where the Sportsman's Lodge in Sherman Oaks, on Ventura and Coldwater Canyon, I think, or Laurel, Coldwater. It was a hotel. It was a small 2-story hotel in the valley. They lived in Van Nuys, and Van Nuys was kind of intimidating. You know, it was a great place. It was a nice place to live, but them coming from the Midwest, it was like so many cars and so many people. So if he had to shoot late or go out of town or even, you know, a late dinner, he would have my mom and I stay at the Sportsman's Lodge, so we wouldn't get kidnapped. So he said, there are more people there. You know, they can see if you're getting kidnapped. And he built the Van Nuys building where they lived on Sherman Way. He made a homemade alarm. They couldn't afford an alarm. It was an apartment too. He made an alarm out of a piece of string, a letter. He tied a piece of string to a letter, put it on the doorknob, ran the string around somehow to a brick with a spittoon, a brass spittoon on the bottom. He goes, okay, if this letter falls, it's gonna trigger the string, the brick's gonna fall, we'll hear the bang, and nobody's coming in to get her. So this is of course I was too little to know this, but the story I've heard from my mom and dad was they're lying in bed one night and they heard this bang. The brick fell into the spittoon and made this big crash. And he said they both sat there completely frozen. They didn't know what to do because they thought somebody broken in. And my mom's like, go see who it is. And it was nobody. It was just the wind or something not to let her over, but really sophisticated alarm system. Does anyone have any memories of watching the Carol Burnett show with their parents or grandparents? Isn't that fun? And All in the Family. My grandparents loved All in the Family, Mary Tyler Moore show, and the Carol Burnett show. And to watch my grandparents laugh so hard at their son was pretty fun. But at the time, now we know it and appreciate it, but at the time it's just, we're like, we called my grandma Moggy. We think Moggy's gonna die. She's laughing so hard. We think she's gonna die. But that was her kid. But she laughed just as hard at Archie Bunker. So it was like good, like clean comedy, right? No bad words.
We went to a Carol Burnett show.
You did?
Yeah, we did.
At
But
CBS?
I can't remember if Tim Conway was on that night, but we enjoyed being and taking it.
I hope he was.
I do too, but I don't remember. Oh,
We didn't get to go because they said that the age was 18 to get in, which is I know they're lying about. But they just wanted a grown-up night, I'm sure, to go out with their friends and not have us 6 kids around. They used to go drink at this bar called the City Slicker, which was across the street from CBS. This little rundown bar, you know, just a hole in the wall. And they used to all get together, and all the cast and crew from the Carol Burnett show went over. And at the time, it wasn't like anybody famous was there. It was just, that's what they did. And it wasn't paparazzi, and it wasn't, no one was doing anything wrong. You know, punching a photographer or things that they do today, or, you know, the gossip. My dad and Harvey said they put, the restaurant was such a hole in the wall that there were paintings on the walls, and they served tacos and hot dogs, I think, nothing fancy. And they put a taco behind one of the paintings and go, let's see how long it lasts here. He said it was 6 years. The taco was behind the painting for 6 years. Because no one's cleaning this place.
Where was CBS?
CBS was Fairfax and Beverly. It's called.
So that's,
It's LA, but it's not Hollywood. It's
down the road from that big hot dog stand.
yeah, Pink's down the road from Pink's, near the Farmers Market, 3rd Street. It was 3rd. Fairfax and 3rd was the Farmers Market, and Fairfax and Beverly was CBS, and it's still there. It looks exactly the same. I don't know what they do there now. I think American Idol was there for a minute, but I don't know. Does anybody have any other questions?
I do.
What?
Well, Carol Burnett was legendary for her greeting to her family about pulling out her ear. Did your dad ever sneak anything into you guys when he was on?
No. No. It's so rude. No. He, I would always say to him, I'm like, Dad, who's your favorite kid? He'd go, oh God, I can't answer that. You're all my favorite. I love you all. So as much as the other one, there's no favorites. I'm like, oh my gosh, you're lying. It's me, right? I go, who's your favorite daughter? He goes, I can't even answer that. I go, I'm the only one. He goes, I can't even answer it. But you know you are.
Hi there.
Hi.
My husband and I had the pleasure of seeing your dad when we lived in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
He and Harvey Korman were at. It was an old. It was a theater that a movie theater that they turned into.
Oh, nice.
And
I love those.
We were sitting in the balcony. I don't know how I did not fall because your dad and Harvey did the dentist. And I just thought I was gonna die. And I wasn't even menopausal then, but I'm sure I broke my hands. Really, it's terrible. And you know, we saw one of my family memories was watching as a family the Burnett show, and I remember the bit, and it was similar but different. And the fun thing was watching Harvey Korman fall apart. The man and you know, they had to have done it hundreds, maybe thousands of times. He couldn't keep it together. And it was just so great. So when we saw you were gonna be, I'm like, oh, we got
Oh, thank you. Yeah, they did it so many times, and my dad would do something a little different every time that I noticed, because I saw a lot of them. And I go, oh, there it is, and Harvey's gonna laugh, and he did. That road show was fun.
It was the best.
It was
just the best.
Yeah, all over the country. They started, when was 9/11? 2001? They were kind of in the middle of their sorry, my back is to you, sorry. And they started flying privately because of the security at the airports. Remember, it was taking like 4 hours to get through security and new rules and shoes and bombs and all that stuff. So the venues started writing it into their contracts and paying for them to fly privately to these venues, and they could do more in a weekend because they didn't have to go, because sometimes it would be in different cities. So they could just hop on the plane. That was, oh my gosh, that was a luxury. I went with him a few times, and I go, Dad, this is the best way to travel. I go, I want to travel like this the rest of my life. He goes, good luck. You better start working harder. Yeah.
I'm curious, did your dad ever talk about some of the contemporaries, like the Bob Newharts and the Eddie Murphys and stuff, the people that were, at his level, those kind of comedians? Was there much give and take about that?
Yeah, I loved him. Bob Newhart was his closest friend, one of his closest friends. Bob Newhart, Mike Connors, who was Mannix.
Oh, yeah.
He's so nice. He was a nice man. Who else?
Robin Williams, was he?
He was a little younger than my dad. No, he respected him, loved him. But I was telling you that they used to go out to dinner once a week. All my dad's friends and him, and they would pick a different restaurant every Tuesday, and it'd be all like the friends from the Carol Burnett Show and Bob Newhart and Mike Connors. But yeah, he liked the new comedians too. He didn't understand, like I said, he didn't understand some of them because there's so much language in them. But he liked David Spade. I love Spade. He's hilarious. If he ever comes anywhere near here, you have to go see him. He's very, very funny. And he's getting funnier as he gets older, which is rare. That doesn't happen. You kind of get a little less quick, but he's getting funnier. Who's the Michael, Saturday Night Live? No, not Mike Myers. Lorne Michaels. Sorry, Lorne Michaels, the Saturday Night Live creator. He was on Howard Stern not too long ago. And Howard Stern said to him, he said, I love on Saturday Night Live when they're doing the Californians and they break the fourth wall and they start laughing at each other. And, you can tell they're laughing so hard. There's, tears coming out of their eyes, but they're still trying to do it. And Lorne Michaels said in that monotone voice, he goes, Howard, I tell my players, they're not Harvey Korman, they're not Carol Burnett, and they're not Tim Conway. You're not good enough to do that. Don't do it. But sometimes they do. But I thought that I was driving, listening, and heard that. I'm like, that was pretty cool. But they are funny. I mean, that it is so funny because then you feel included, I think, in what they're laughing about, or even if you don't know what they're laughing about. It's hard. It's fun to watch professionals be unprofessional.
Harvey Korman was a classically trained, was a comedian, but was not an ad-lib specialist. And we watch Carol Burnett reruns right now in the city overnight. And you just hold your breath as you watch Korman marching his way right into a death trap.
Oh, yeah, it is. It was a death trap, literally. And they would do this question behind you.
Do you have any movies from your childhood with your father and family?
Home movies?
Home movies.
Yes, I found. Well, I had in storage and I forgot I had them because when you put stuff in storage and then you don't see it for 20 years, but you pay $250 a month for it and you don't even know what's in it. I went through the storage to find all the pictures for the book actually, and I have a box. I have 200 Super 8, 8mm movies that were getting developed right now. It's just raw film. I mean, it's film. And we had a few developed to see because they weren't stored properly. They weren't in climate control. They were getting beaten up by the valley sun for 20 years. And so we had a couple of them processed, and then they're fine. I mean, I thought they're pretty brittle. I mean, you got to kind of be careful with them. But and then my brother Tim bought a movie projector. He paid $100 for some projector. He went downtown to get it, and it was the old clicking movie projector. And I actually have it at my house right now. Watching all the movies. So I took some stills from those, but we're getting them all developed. And then there's a place called, I forgot what it's called, but you send all the movies to it and they develop and send it back. But isn't that scary? Like you could lose them.
It was successful for us. I did it for them
Yeah.
Yeah, I was scary to mail off that box.
Yeah, sometimes my FedEx don't come or get there, so I don't know. So we're taking him somewhere local.
You were fairly young when your parents got divorced, especially your brothers.
Yeah.
What was the family dynamics like after that, and then when your dad remarried?
Good question. I was 15, 16. I was in high school, 16 or 17. I was in high school, and so my youngest brother was only 9, Sean. So that was pretty little. And I was embarrassed because in those days, I mean, people were divorced. It wasn't unheard of, but it was like, I can't believe this is happening. Like nobody saw it. I was cheerleading, going to the beach, having a great time, and then this bad news. And they also, in the same conversation, my dad said, your mom and I have decided not to be married anymore. We're not going to be living together. So it's like one stab in the heart. And Carol decided not to come back with the show next year. So we're like, what? Like everything we knew was like kind of stopped. It was sad. It was sad. And then when my dad, it was okay. I mean, I never heard them fight. I saw my mom cry a couple times, and that was sad. But it wasn't like a big brawl. I think they just went, okay, we have such different ways of bringing these kids up. Like one thinks we should be at the racetrack and one thinks we should be in school. So it's hard to compromise. So, but in the end, once you realize that your parents need companions and they need their friends and they're not just there for you, then you and it took me a while. It took me till I was about 30 to be like, oh, okay, they're cool. And I loved my stepmom at the time. Like I loved her because she was affiliated with the Carol Burnett show. She was Carol Burnett and Joe Hamilton's personal secretary, which now wouldn't be secretary, just be their like personal assistant. But she did everything from type the show script up to call times to helping the directors, being in the booth, getting lunch, to shopping for Carol and Joe's kids for Christmas or picking one up from the doctor. So she did everything. And so my stepmom and Roger, Beatty, that was them, and my dad and mom were all best friends. It was ugly. That was not fun.
Who's Roger?
Roger is Charlene's, my stepmom's ex-husband. So Roger was a director on the associate director on the Carol Burnett show. So Charlene and Roger were married, and my mom and dad. And so my mom and dad got divorced. Charlene and Roger stayed together for a little bit. Then they got divorced. Then my dad and Charlene got together. And so that's what made my mom go into orbit, which I understand wasn't that cool. But
Jim the camera guy.
Hi. I thought you were telling me. I'm like, what's wrong with them?
No, you're good. I just wanted to say that my introduction to your dad's work was through his collaboration with Don Knotts.
Oh.
And that stuff was fun.
Yeah.
Like, Private Eyes and, Apple Dumpling Game.
Yeah.
That stuff. Did you have any
That was so
fond memories
fun.
of that, or any anecdotes you could talk about?
Yeah, that was a big deal because he was only on TV, and they were pretty decent days at CBS. Monday, Tuesday were kind of read-throughs and rehearsal a little bit. Wednesday, Thursday was a little bit, and then Friday he was gone all day. But that was really the only long day. But when he did the Apple Dumpling Gang, those were like 12-hour days. We're like, where is our dad? Like he just kind of they were shooting in LA in town. But they were long days, and it was we used to make videos for him singing Barry Manilow's song "I Can't Smile Without You." We're like, Dad, you need to come home. It's so sad without you. Mom's putting us in a closet, and she won't let us watch the races. But the first movie he did was called The World's Greatest Athlete, and that was with Jan Michael Vincent and John Amos. And that he had to go to Stockton or Sacramento, somewhere up in Northern California. And my dad had to sit us down and go, guys, I'm leaving for 4 weeks. And we're like, oh, what should we pack? And he goes, you're not coming. I'm like, what? I cried for a week. I did. And so he ended up coming home on weekends because we were all just crying without him. It's so sad. But he missed us too. So it was a different job. They were long, hard days. Don Knotts was the nicest man I've ever met. He was sweet and kind and funny. They laughed so hard together. He would just come over and hang out with my dad and play pool at the house. And he would take off right from, like, if I hadn't seen him for a few months or 6 months, he'd go, hey, how did cheerleading tryouts go? And did you make varsity? And what about that guy? Like, what about, he remembered every time what was going on. He was so nice. His daughter, Karen Knotts, just wrote a book.
I got it, I'm reading it.
It really? We're doing a radio thing in a couple weeks on KBC, I think. Karen Knotts and I talking about the books. I haven't read it yet. I have it, but I haven't read it. And she's a comedian, I think. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
I said, hopefully this will be the second fastest 45 minutes of your afternoons here in Prescott.
I'm not leaving.
And it's time for us to say goodbye to Kelly.
You guys are so nice. Thank you so much for having me. Like this, I know my dad's watching this, and this is, I've never done this before. I've done some TV and some interviews for the book, but this was so comfortable and so nice, and so everyone's just so kind and welcoming. And thank you so much for listening to my stupid voice for about 2 hours.